Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Blaze the Cat here, and I am back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos once again. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games for the Nintendo DS version, also known as in Japan, Mario and Sonic at Vancouver Olympics, because you know, this game does manage to take place in Canada in Vancouver, so it makes sense for that context. So, last time, we've essentially did manage able to explore into the final world in story mode on the DS version. That's what appears to be Blizland, even though we actually only experienced, let's just say, 2 or 3, or actually kind of think about it, we've only experienced 2 dream events so far during the forms of in Blizland, which appears to be ultimate figure skating alongside with intense short track, which are both basically related to ice skating. In addition to that, we also did manage able to, well, compete against with Daisy, to able to actually decide to recruit with her, and in addition to that, we also managed able to win back into Ice Peak, to able to actually access to the last area during the forms of in Ice Peak, and not only that though, we did somehow manage able to bump into both Wario and Waluigi, to able to compete against with both of them during the forms of in Snowboard Cross, and also we did manage able to recruit with us. And finally, most notably though, we did somehow manage able to bump into E123 Omega, and we did somehow manage able to beat him in intense short track. And generally speaking though, I found that particular, event quite fun actually, especially concerning for that, well, no major issues there. So either way, so today for this video is that we're about to be continuing exploring through Blizland, and hopefully though, by that time until, well, specifically later on, then hopefully though we can able to actually do some more stuff here and there. Like for instance though, there's a chain jump on that platform, and something tells me that Wario's gonna do his job, to able to actually taking care of the forms of that chain jump in himself. So in addition to that, I think something tells me we might also try to able to actually go back into Cubyrinth for trying to able to actually access the last area that we haven't exactly explored into yet, because, well, generally speaking, I was about the fact that hopefully we'll try to able to search things around and what have you. So either way though, that's the way how we're going to be able to try to deal with this at this point in time. So yeah, it looks like that Wario's now got trapped, so it's up to him to able to do a one-on-one knockout round against with the forms of that chain jump. So I guess the only technique we can only do is by trying to do a specific move, which obviously though, instead of punching him, so instead we need to activate the Wario's fart technique. And basically though, if you dare get yourselves knocked out, then it's all over. So because of that though, yeah, you have to be so precise with all that particular movement in mind. So, and luckily though, I somehow managed able to deal with that chain jump for about 10 seconds flat. So, nicely done. And fundamentally speaking, I was about the fact that we've only got about one more minigame left, which is obviously going to take place in Cubyrinth for sure. So, I believe that was the only minigame for the sake of the forms of this particular place we can able to come across into, I believe. Well, mind you, it has been about quite a few hours since I actually have last recorded this, basically. So, now for those of you probably wondering to yourself about the fact that how come we actually able to actually upload the previous part quite late during the forms of this whole entire process, if you're probably wondering. Well, to put it simply, is that did you guys know about the fact that why the actual previous part takes way more longer to try to able to upload anything from the likes of since yesterday? Well, everything else goes all according to plan, except with the time schedule, because it was originally going to be uploaded during the forms of around 5 o'clock and during the forms of in the evening, well, at least to be more specifically in the UK time. Well, apparently though, that's not the case, but that's just mainly because we've come across into a technical issue from the get-go. That's what appears to be the video processing glitches, which I know it has been quite some time, although it did happen most of the time recently, probably because it takes a long time to able to get the video processing going. I think it's mainly it's probably due to the forms of video quality that might be the only reason for it. Although, as far as uploading the actual video itself is concerned, it goes all fine, but again, it's just all down to the forms of video quality that it's usually set in either 720p or 1080p, or even nowadays with 2K or 4K, despite the fact that we still haven't actually access to the 4K capture card devices or anything else like that. Until God knows until when Nintendo will able to support 4K onto Nintendo Switch 2 at some point in the future. But regardless of anything else though, is about the fact that it's so annoying sometimes, especially that, again, everything else goes all according to plan, but at the same time, not. Mainly because of time constraints, and not only that though, a lot of distractions are involved. So because of that though, I do apologize about the forms of some of these, the lack of uploading schedules in the most recent days at this point in time, which unfortunately, to tell you the truth about the fact that it will attempt to happen at one point, especially if you're working on something that is incredibly well, let's just say, for instance though, if you try to work on a let's play of a RPG game or something, and then if you do manage to do a lot of scripts very well, and then at the same time though, trying to do a lot of emphasis on editing stuff, and most of the time about the fact that, well, it's hard for me to say about that particular subject, because we already know for a fact it's been about almost 2 years ago since we last did done our Let's Play of Super Mario RPG for the Super Nintendo, but hopefully though we can able to do some more RPG stuff and join at some point in the future. But anyway, let's just go ahead and knock down the drawbridge, so naturally speaking we can make this entire process a lot quicker. But then again though, is about the fact that, yeah, it's just, I don't think it's possible for us to able to actually just to try to able to completely done any other aspects of this particular world up until specifically the next couple of weekends up ahead, because generally speaking I was about the fact that, well, it takes a bit of a long time to try to figure out where you're supposed to go, because generally speaking I was about the fact that sometimes this world can be felt a bit likely like a maze labyrinthy kind of structure. Well, as long as you would know what to do, then you will be okay. But it's just about the fact that no matter what though, it's been a very long time since we actually got to this process. So because of this though, and yeah, everything else will become to expect at that one point. So anyway, so yeah, a few things we want to talk about this is about the fact that, well, today's date, of course, there is the 23rd of February today, in some cases in 2025 today, and straight to the point is about the fact that we actually got ourselves not one, but two official announcements that I would like to point things out. Well, to be more accurate though, when it comes to anniversaries related, well, first of all, is about the fact that before we mention more about that particular subject though, that basically though, did you guys know there's actually going to be a new sort of kids resort is going to be on its way in Texas in 2026, which is roughly next year. And as a result, the actual kids resort is going to be based off from Universal, basically. So yeah, the new Universal Kids Resorts will be opening until specifically on 2026 in Journey Volkswagen Fry, so Texas, at least as far as I do know. But either way, that's what I can really describe about that particular subject. And also, did you guys know about the fact that it's been 19 years since the original Sonic Riders disc came out, both on the Nintendo GameCube, PlayStation 2, Xbox, and I'm not exactly entirely sure about the PC version for sure, because I already know for a fact that the PC version, it's entirely different story. But regardless of such though, yeah, it's been 19 years since the first Sonic Riders game did somehow first came out in North America. And generally speaking though, while looking back on it though, I still found that to be a really dang good game to me though. I mean, sure, it feels a little bit weird at first glance whenever that particular game was first being revealed and all that stuff back in 2006, concerning for the fact that that was the beginning of the forms of the, you know, trying to marketing the 15th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog during the forms of in 2006, you know, before they did some pretty bad projects during that time, which would appear to be both Sonic the Hedgehog Genesis for the Game Boy Advance, and even especially noticeable with the most infamous games of all time, which is of course Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, because, you know, that game was horribly rushed. So yeah, you get the idea what I was expecting to mention about that specific subject. So, but at the very least with Sonic Rivals though, it is alright. I mean, it's not the best Sonic game in the series, but that's just mainly because no matter what though, it was just there. And not to mention though, that was the first Sonic game to be released on the PlayStation Portable, because they were originally trying to able to bring some even more PSP games for Sonic the Hedgehog, including some of the most obscure ones. Like, for instance though, there was a, at one point they're trying to make the game that you can able to play as not only Sonic, but Shadow as well, but ultimately though, that particular game has been cancelled, which I'm not exactly sure why, what's causing it though, but regardless of such though, yeah, that's as far as I can try to explain about that part. So anyway, here we go back onto Intense Short Track again, but except this time we are forced to play as Daisy, all thanks to the forms that Lakitu fella that we've already come across into ever since in Ice Peak. So, and this time around though, if you couldn't tell already, the mission objective for this one right here is that, well, we cannot afford to fall off once, because if you fell once, it's game over. So generally speaking though, you have to watch out for a lot of bottomless pits. And another thing too, do not recommend using the bottomless special move like multiple times, especially in this bit right here, that if you time your jumps wrong, obviously though, you might accidentally fall into the bottomless pit down below. And also, probably because no matter what though, I mean, for the most part, it is self-explanatory until you come across into one or two sections. So, I mean, for the most part though, it's just about the fact you have to be super careful with, like, you know, acceleration, and not to mention though, that you have to be very, very sturdy when it comes to likely trying to move left and right, and so much to the point for the fact that if you come across into cracked floors, do not use the special dash move, because otherwise you will get screwed. So, assuming of course, well, obviously though, I wasn't expecting to try to go for these dash rings, but I cannot afford to able to try to do all that stuff, because I just don't want to risk myself, you know? But I digress. So yeah, let's get into the actual subject about the forms of the actual anniversaries that's been happening. It's all thanks to the fact that, well, obviously though, between both Avatar, The Last Airbender, the TV series to be more specifically, in addition to that, there's also another show called Glitch Text, where basically though, both of those series in general have recently celebrated anniversaries recently. Like for instance, Avatar, The Last Airbender has recently celebrated its 20th anniversary since 2005. So yeah, happy 20th anniversary there. And in addition to that, happy 5th anniversary of the series release of the forms of Glitch Text. So yeah, that's as far as I was trying to able to explain about that, but either way. Oh, there's the last item that I was on about. Oh yeah. That's what appears to be, more accurately, could be related to the final dream event we can able to now finally experience with. And straight to the point though, because if you couldn't tell, thanks to the forms of that purple toad that we've already come across into earlier, and obviously though, since we actually got that particular very obscure curling stone, that means we're able to get an additional emblem too, meaning about the fact that we actually gathered every single sport equipment. So yeah, everything else goes all fine and dandy and everything. So either way, so I guess it's now a huge opportunity now to able to actually try out the final dream event in the whole entire game. Well, technically not really just yet, because we are still missing extreme snowboarding, which hopefully we'll try to get around to at some point, but not now though, just because as you can tell, we are now experiencing curling bowling, which it feels remarkably similar to the forms of how it does on the Wii version. However though, the biggest difference is this time around though, is that, well, we'll try to explain more about that if we get into the actual mission itself. And in this one in particular, we need to knock down the moving Goomba, which, oh boy, it's going to be a little bit trickier than I was expecting, but we'll give it a go, especially because as you can see on screen, that we are now playing as Wario, of all things. So either way, especially that hopefully we'll promise you guys, enjoying the bombs have been later on in this year, we still need to try to figure something out when it comes to doing our Let's Play of Wario Land, the Shake Dimension, because we already know for a fact it's been roughly 2 years ago. Well, actually, technically speaking though, actually, it's been roughly, well, let's just say, 3 years ago since we've last done a Wario platformer game, since, well, let's just say, the most disappointing game of the bunch, which appears to be Master of Disguise, just because that game is way too dragged on, and not only that though, it requires you to use a lot of emphasis on touchscreen controls, which I'm not particularly fan of, And not only that though, I feel like the entire game of Master of Disguise feels like a slog to go through, especially because, well, all thanks to the fact that both Sonic and Mighty did somehow both experience the game and they did not enjoy it as much as they do. So either way. So yeah, let's just go ahead and try this again, because if you couldn't tell already, this is where the point where most of these missions can get a lot more difficult at this point. And oh, are you serious? Okay. Oh jeez, this might take a bit while, folks. This can take a very long time. So yeah, I do apologize if my commentary is a little bit slightly off at points, but that's just mainly because at this point in time that I believe we've only got about 4 more days to go until the Pokemon Presents is going to be happening. So because of that though, and I still have no idea, well, aside from the fact that we can hear more about the forms of, you know, Pokemon Legends ZA at long last, and hopefully we'll hear more about the forms of some other Pokemon projects in the future, which I really don't know if they're trying to mention something related to Pokemon movies or something, because my goodness, it's been almost like, what, almost 5 years ago since the last one, which appears to be The Secrets of the Jungle, which did came out during the forms of in the, well, technically speaking now in Japan, that it did came out in 2020, but it wasn't until for roughly about a year later in the English version on Netflix. So yeah, you get the idea what I was expecting Fable to mention about that subject, but either way. But hey, at least on the upside for this mission right here, we've got 3 lives back, so how about that? And I get the feeling we might able to actually get more crystals for the sake of the forms of trying to go back into Cubyrinth for presumably for the last time from now on though, until there are some more additional content is going to be on its way for the sake of the forms of the later parts to come. So either way though, I suppose the next thing I should probably describe about the forms of what's been happening recently is that, well, fundamentally speaking though, is about the fact that the Tokyo Game Show 2025 is about to kick off at some point once again in September, except this time it's now going to take place on the 25th of September during the forms of 2025, which is roughly about 12 days after the celebration for the Super Mario Bros. 40th anniversary, assuming if Nintendo's going to be planning for that at some point, which at this point in time is about the fact that we've only got about a couple of days left until Mario 10 Day is going to be on its way until, of course, on March 10th, so we can able to expect to see some nice little surprises for the Red Italian Plumber, which is of course Mario right here. As you can see, I'm now controlling him, of course, because you know what I'm saying about the fact that he's the Mr. Video Game for a reason. So, because, you know, mustache and everything. So, either way though, and speaking of which though, is about the fact that me and Silver did somehow manage to able to try to sort out our Nintendo Switch game shelf unit again, because we still have no idea when there's going to be some more Nintendo Switch 1 games is going to be on its way, or if not, that about the fact that we'll have to stick around with trying to saving up for Nintendo Switch 2 at some point in the future, once that particular system is going to be releasing sometime in this year, alongside with the forms of the first couple of games with the launch lineup. And I'm still really hoping about the fact that there's going to be some nice little third-party support in the forms of in the launch titles department. Like, for instance, though, I keep on hearing about Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be on Switch 2, alongside with the forms of Rebirth for next year, for 2026. Well, mind you, though, is about the fact it's all about speculations, and once again, rumors keeps on popping out most of the time, which I already know for a fact that sometimes, though, it just feels a little bit tiring at one form or another right now. I mean, at least still, we are super happy about the fact that Switch 2 is now real after the events of tons of leaks and rumors in the past few months, ever since in December, or technically October, in 2024. At least right after, actually, when, or just before, when Super Mario Party Jamboree did somehow came out, and just before Mario Luigi Brothership comes out, and in addition to that, with Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, or Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, I should say, because I keep thinking about other stuff I keep on describing about. Well, that again though, folks, is about the fact that we honestly do apologize about the forms of not only our commentary involved, but it's also about the fact that we hopefully though, when it gets to the point until the next couple of days, then we should able to go back into its normal routine when it comes to the forms of uploading scheduled time and all that jazz. Especially because well, the thing is about the forms at the beginning of each and every single year, it just feels a bit all over the place sometimes with all that. Well, you know what I'm saying, with uploading schedules doesn't go according to plan, like I said before. I mean, sometimes though it's about the fact that it just feels rather slow in comparison to in the past. Like, for instance though, I do remember that about the fact that Silver did tell me about this, that obviously though we've got everything else organized for the actual timing of the actual uploading schedules as far as I'm aware, during the events within 2021, alongside with 2022 as well, all thanks to the events of those redo Let's Plays of any other classic Mario Party games just before, you know, Mario Party Superstars is on its way. In addition to that though, is about the fact that, well, you get the idea what I'm talking about, especially concerning for that a lot of stuff has been according to plan previously in the past years. So, whilst compared to the forms of nowadays though, sometimes though it can take a very long time to get this process going, but either way. As you can see, we've somehow talked to Blue Toad right here, and if you do manage to talk to Blue Toad here, then obviously though you can now able to actually have a look around, or should I say, trying to look at the forms of a bunch of galleries in journey forms at this particular point. And basically though you can able to look at on trivia, alongside with the forms of some emblems you somehow gotten, journey forms of being adventure tours story mode, and of course there's also some Olympic memorial merchandise or something like that. But in order able to get them actually, is that you need to talk to Rouge right here. And to put it simply though, is that remember those white stones that we keep on collecting throughout the majority of the adventure so far? Well, that's where the fact that the trading item thing decides to come into play. And basically though, it kind of reminds me like a similar vibes almost from the likes of The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening a little bit. Although except the fact that you have to do it like through different times. Whilst in here though, you can only give away white stones to Rouge, and naturally speaking though, it actually gives you something for it's very useful for its completionist or anything else like that. Although keep that in mind though, when it comes to the forms of Olympic memorials or anything else like that, even though it's a bit tricky to explain what the word stands for, but basically though, it only goes up to likely, for instance though, when it comes to Winter Olympics biography from very long time ago, all the way up to 2006 in I would say in Italy for something like that. Well, maybe I'm correct about that part. I mean, generally speaking, I was about the fact that, well, it has been quite a few months since we've last mentioned something relates to Winter Olympics. Ever since Journey Films have been sometime in Journey Films are around summer last year or something like that, because we already know for the fact that until next year in 2026 that the next Winter Olympics is also going to take place in Italy as well, but in a different spot this time, as opposed to the forms of how it does on the exact same town location as the forms of since 2006. So yeah, that's something's worth brought things up for the sake of time. So yeah, I digress. So yeah, I guess there's nothing else I can really say about that particular part itself, I guess. So anyway. Okay, quick hit right there, sorry about that folks, it's just that, as you can tell, I have to, like, do a bit of a jump cut for the sake of the forms of trying to double check or know how good the quality can be, though. Anyway, so let's go down to this pipe right here, to able to try to find one of the shy guys that has been well hidden, and usually, relatively speaking, that's essentially how we can able to actually access to the last area of the forms of Cubyrinth, and straight to the point, I was originally trying to able to go for some more missions during the forms in Blizland, but I do need to figure this out for trying to able to look upon guides of how to able to actually trying to get to the top right corner of this world, especially because, like I said before, every nowadays is that certain worlds, including this world in particular, goes very, very lengthy, especially because you have to do a lot of emphasis on backtracking and stuff like that when it comes to, like, you know, activating a lot of switches, and also, in addition to that, about the fact that there's going to be a lot of times about the fact that we need to, like, you know, keep on constantly switching between both Mario and Sonic for specific abilities and all that stuff, because obviously, though, Sonic still doesn't use, not only the regular red mushroom, but alongside with the forms of the mini mushroom as well. So, yeah, you get the idea I was expecting to try to able to describe about that particular subject. So anyway, so let's go back into Cubyrinth for presumably for the final time for now. until, you know, some more stuff will be added during that time. So anyway, so yes, as far as what both Sonic and Tails did somehow already predicted this, is that yes, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie has officially now made its way to the 10th spot on the highest grossing films of 2024. So yeah, pretty awesome potentially, especially because, you know, Sonic 3 is awesome, you know? Especially because, well then again, we're probably not going to mention any spoilers from now on though, just because you have to wait and see what happens. Until, well, usually relatively speaking, you know, that film is now available on Paramount Plus, but we still haven't exactly access to Paramount Plus, as far as you can definitely tell. But relatively speaking, though, is about the fact that when it comes to the films, the updated films list for the highest grossing films of 2024 has been addressed. So I think we should probably explain more about that in a second, because if you couldn't tell already, that Waluigi is now shown up, which means about the fact that this is now a huge opportunity for us to tackle through the final minigame of this whole entire version of the game. And relatively speaking now, oh geez, there's an ambush with that particular egg flipper. And it may look like we got able to deal with that egg flipper before we're able to actually decide to continue our progress for the sake of the films of the last stretch of Cubyrinth, and also tackle some more missions during that time period as well. So either way, now as far as I'm aware, we were originally able to try to take on the next boss in particular for this video, but definitely in the next video for sure, just because, like I said this before, hopefully until likely for the next couple of weeks and days, hopefully our uploading schedules will be back on track as normal. So either way though, yeah, let's just go ahead and try to deal with the egg flipper by simply trying to toss the bombs upwards, and you have to pay attention to its drop shadow, because otherwise if you try to toss the bomb at the right time with that particular drop shadow in mind, that actually signifies that counts as a hit. But you have to watch out for the forms of course, explosions, and not only that though, and there's also some green bombs which definitely homes in on you. So potentially speaking, once you try to avoid those green bombs at all times, then it should be okay. So either way, and that pretty much does it for every single minigames in the story mode in Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games. So, oh jeez, there's that little hole over there, which, yeah, that probably explains why, about the fact that we can now to actually go and, you know, start to exploring the last few bits in this place. So, alongside with all that stuff though, there's going to be some more missions. So, anyways though, back into what I was saying about the films, this updated highest grossing films of 2024, where it comes to that huge update. As for right now, ever since Injury films have been the 21st of February. Like, for instance though, as I mentioned this before, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was now on 10th place right now, so it's actually doing pretty good. And meanwhile, for 9th place, it's pretty much unchanged. Well, actually, kind of think about it, most of these films are basically unchanged when it comes to precision. Like, for instance though, Inside Out 2 is still on top, and usually in 2nd place still goes to Deadpool and Wolverine. 3rd place still goes to Moana 2, and 4th place still goes to Despicable Me 4, and 5th place still goes to Wicked. 6th place still goes to Doom Part 2, and 7th place goes to Mufasa the Lion King, which I just really wish if that film will be on fully 2D animated rather than just live action adaptation. I mean, I've already gone all about that in the past few months. I mean, they just want money, of course, which has to be expected. But anyway, 8th place still goes to Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, and 9th place still goes to Kung Fu Panda 4, and of course, like I mentioned this earlier, is that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is now on 10th place, so not bad. So, especially that's the 2nd time that the Sonic movie franchise has made it to the actual listings of the highest grossing films during the actual year's industry. Except with Sonic the Hedgehog 2, just because no matter what though, for I can double check on that briefly, that's probably because no matter what though, that originally Sonic 2 was supposed to be on the actual top 10 highest grossing films, but somehow that any other films beats it to it. Like, for instance, though, in 2022, that obviously, though, Avatar: The Way of Water is still #1 on the highest grossing films of 2022, followed by Top Gun Maverick and Jurassic World Dominion, and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Minions 2, The Rise of Gru, and Black Panther, Wakanda. I can't really say that very well. I do apologize for that mispronunciation of that film's title, by the way. But regardless of everything else, though, yeah. And there's also the Batman, and there's also Thor and Thor: Love and Thunder, and the Battle at Lake Kakjan, and of course Puss in Boots: The Last Wish on 10th place. So yeah, everything else goes all fine and dandy with all these film releases during that period, with all its highest grossing films and stuff like that. So yeah, it's doing rather well when it comes to Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which still is doing pretty well. And meanwhile, when it comes to the forms of other stuff worth noting for, is that, well, surprisingly enough though, when it comes to 2025 highest grossing films at the moment, as far as the forms of, you know, since on the 21st of February, well, conveniently enough, I was almost assuming that Dogman is going to be on top, but apparently though it's not, because actually as it turns out, it does manage able to have some odd films have been listed for the highest grossing films for 2025. Like, for instance, there's, let's just say, Operation Heydol, that was on 9th place at the moment, and there's also with the films of some familiar films, like, for instance, Dogman is now on 6th place when it comes to highest grossing films of 2025, and no shock and surprise about the fact that Captain America: Brave New World is doing quite well so far. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to turn out at the end of the day. I mean, sure enough though, about the fact I still haven't seen the film yet. I mean, I definitely heard some mixed feelings about the film, but on the other hand though, it's nowhere near as the same as the forms of how it does on the previous 3 Captain America films, like The First Adventure, or The Winter Soldier, and especially noticeable with Civil War, what I've heard anyway. At least that's what Silver did somehow explain to me about that. But regardless of such though, yeah, that's as far as I can try to describe about the forms of, well, to be more accurate though, that Captain America: Brave New World is now currently on 3rd place on the highest grossing films of 2025, and I believe it's now on to $218 million so far. And you know, as far as other films I'm concerned, well, obviously though, Dogman is actually now on to $91 million for its box office right now. And in addition to that, there's also Den of Thieves 2 that is currently on 8th place right now. And there's also this very obscure film made by Mad Dog Films, which appears to be Chafara, I think is what it says anyway. And there's also with the films of Bonnie Bear's Future Reborn. I believe that film is now on 5th place. And there's also Detective Chinatown 1900. That was now on 2nd place so far. And there was also with the films this very unexpected film appearance that it's now been taking over the highest grossing animated films of all time, apparently. That's what appears to be Ni Zia 2, which is basically it's like a Chinese movie of any sort, which, yeah, is very unexpected, because I was assuming that Inside Out 2 was expected to be the #1 animated films of all time when it comes to box office department, but that does not seem to be the case, because it's now officially been beaten by a Chinese movie for the animated department. So yeah, that's actually very odd, especially that I've definitely heard about it, but I've never actually experienced it for myself. So because of that though, yeah, I've got no comments for that point right there, especially because, well, obviously though, I'm still have to able to try to look out for some deadly stuff like, you know, C-virus and all that stuff, which I know for a fact that, oh gee, that was a definition of a close call right there. Although, relatively speaking, as you can definitely tell right from the get-go, is that several missions nowadays can get a lot more tougher. I mean, don't even get me started at the, towards the end game, basically, where every nowadays, the AI can usually sometimes feel to be a lot more aggressive, especially in this event's case with, you know, FIFA Hockey, especially because they outright against you. Although, relatively speaking though, for this mission in particular, all you have to really do for this mission right here is quite simple. Basically, we need to reach for about 50 odd points on the first period, and that'll be about it. As long as you don't let the computer players manage able to distract you. And not to mention though, the controls is not that very great though, honestly, because I much prefer, you know, the nunchuck and Wii remote combo into one. Just like the forms of how it does in one of those sports in Mario Sports Mix in particular. But regardless of such though, we somehow pull this off for about a few seconds left. So, how's that for that part? So, but unfortunately though, we haven't got any hearts, but that's okay, because generally speaking though, we've somehow gone back into a maximum of 99 hearts, so we should be okay by that point. So either way, as long as we don't waste them too much, because otherwise that can really drag on with this whole entire process. So, and then fundamentally speaking though, since we've got every single crystal, so you know what that means? Well, we are basically done collecting crystals. And not only that though, we can now able to get rid of the final ice wall in the whole entire game. But like I said before, I don't think it's possible for us to able to do it for this video, but definitely in the next video for sure. To be more accurate though, for next weekend or two, because obviously though, I got a lot of things planned for the sake of the phones in the future days to come. So either way though, and here's another maple tree leaf, which as a result though, it somehow features yet another one of those mascots for the sake of Vancouver 2010. So either way, I got nothing else to say. So either way though, so yeah, I'm thinking we are basically done for now, in terms of the forms of Cubyrinth as of now. So yeah, let's go and switch over back to Sonic for activating or just simply using those springs and trying to get back into the actual teleporting portal right here. So naturally speaking, let's go back to Frost Town for a bit, and then obviously though we can able to go back into Blizland to try to take care of the last few bits before you're able to actually not only try to stop Bowser and Dr. Eggman, but also about the fact that we can hopefully try to rescue Frosty himself, which, either way, that sounds like a plan, especially because, well, after dealing with the forms of a lot of trial and error annoyances when it comes to some missions, like, I can't even believe that we somehow wasted for about 4 hearts on that particular one mission, which involves around knocking down that moving Goomba. I mean, my goodness, that can take me a lot of tries to able to get that right. So either way, but you know, as relative as it is, although again I apologize for that commentary, it's a little bit messy in some form or another, because, well, let's just say that's all I can really talk about the forms of today's topic at this point. I mean, sure, I would have liked to explain something else for that matter though, but honestly guys, that's what I can really describe about in terms of the forms of this whole entire day, and not only that though, throughout the entire week as well, but still, it can be rather tricky to know about the forms of some other topics worth noting for. So yeah, it looks like we got able to try to figure out the forms of that particular pathways we need to go to. So yeah, it can't be full likely like a maze kind of labyrinthy structure. So either way, but then again, you can't jump over gaps, which either way, that's what I can really say about it, I guess. So either way, hopefully by that time until next week, hopefully though, we should probably be able to explain more about the forms of something relates to like Pokemon Presents coming up. And in addition to that though, is about the fact that hopefully we can able to actually hear more about some other stuff worth noting for, like for instance though, that we still have no idea about the fact that when it comes to the forms of a Minecraft movie and all that stuff, I mean, it's a bit random to say it for this point right now. So either way, I suppose, oh, it looks like the actual the Whitestone detective thing is still activated for some time because it still makes that sound. So yeah, I totally forgot about that personally, but regardless of such though. So with that being said folks, is that we get endings up at this point right here, I'm afraid guys. So join us next time, or join me next time actually, for more of Let's Play of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games for the Nintendo DS. Is that suffice to say, we can able to, what we essentially trying to do for this point, is that we'll try to find some more missions to interact with at first, but then after that though, we can probably take on the next boss in the game, and potentially speaking though, we can able to finally get rid of the final ice wall, because, you know, we've got all the crystals now, so that should be fun. So I'll see you guys until next Saturday. Later, fellas.